How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to the second episode of the All Things Liverpool series. I'm your host, Anish Dogra, and similar to last week, we'll be talking about everything that's been going on over the last 7 to 10 days with Liverpool. So all the latest issues, news, and everything surrounding the club. So ahead of the return of the Premier League this weekend, we've got lots of good things to talk about. You know, how our players got on over the international break. Some of the things that have gone on behind the scenes that are potentially going to affect us for next week, and loads of other issues. So let's get right into it. So back on the back of the international break, we saw England have a pretty good set of results. 2 wins and a draw. It was obviously disappointing to concede later on against Poland, but 7 points in 3 games, you can't really complain, and we're effectively in the World Cup now. I think we need a few more points, and we're mathematically there. But a key issue I want to talk about is Trent Alexander-Arnold. So we all know the quality he has. He's arguably the best one of the best right backs in the world, maybe the best in my opinion. And we saw this week or last week against Andorra, he was experimented at centre mid or in defensive midfield, and that's a position that many Liverpool fans and Premier League fans alike have been talking about as a potential future position for him in that role further forward, where he can potentially contribute more in an attacking sense. But after watching that game and hearing the comments from him and Jurgen Klopp today in his press conference, I honestly believe that he's not great as a centre mid. I think he could be good as a centre mid, but I think he's far more effective at right back. Now, if you're to analyse the two positions, if you see him at right back, firstly he has that width, and when he goes forward, he has the entirety of that right flank where he can get down to the byline, he can put crosses in from near the corner flag, or he can produce crosses from further back. All different types of angles, and it gives him so much possibility as to what kind of ball he can put into the box. Whereas at centre mid, firstly, it's the toughest position in on the pitch. There's no doubt about it. You never have a second to breathe, and players like Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, Paul Scholes, etc., how they pulled it off for so many is in that role. They deserve so much credit. Now, Trent Alexander-Arnold could potentially develop into that role and become really, really great in that position. But I honestly believe at right back, where he can develop he can still develop so much more, and where he can really, really show off his talents in that position, I think he's far better off suited in that role. And not only that, we saw him today. We saw him a few days ago talking to a couple of outlets, saying that he found it quite tough in that position. So it goes to show again that he really prefers playing at right back, and because he's been playing in that role for so many years now, I think he was initially in that role since 2016 or 2017, and he's honestly made that position his own. So for him to come out and say that he made it tough, it goes to show that he's obviously a much better right back. And then Jurgen Klopp today, he made quite a I wouldn't say aggressive comment towards Gareth Southgate, but definitely one that was questionable towards being a manager's choice of putting Trent in midfield. He said, Jurgen Klopp said that, why would you put the best right back in the world in midfield? So clearly he's questioning Southgate's decision to put him in that role. And again, I can honestly agree with him. We see Trent in that position, producing quality ball after quality ball, cross after cross, so many assists. It makes no sense for him to go into that new position. So, for those reasons alone, I honestly think Trent at right back is he's just one of the best players in that role. And I don't think he should even be considering any other position for the foreseeable future. Now, moving on to another topic, and one that's quite unbelievable, I'd like to say, the Jude Bellingham rumours. So over the last week or so, we've seen some incredible rumours saying that Liverpool, we are interested in the player next summer, and it could apparently cost us £18 million. Now, I'm not sure if I really want to believe that, but because Paul Joyce from the Times is probably one of the most reliable sources for Liverpool news. You know, him, Melissa Reddy, and a few others. Those two are one of the most reliable outlets. I want to have a little bit of hope that he could be playing in red at the start of next season, but at the same time, given how we do our business and the kind of money that we usually spend, we honestly never spend more than 50 million on a player, bar Van Dijk and Alisson. So for him potentially costing us 80 million pounds, I honestly can't see it happening. I could maybe in a few years' time, if he doesn't sign a new contract to Dortmund and he comes into his second or last year of the deal, then he could potentially become an option for us. And don't forget, he's still so young. So signing him in 2 or 3 years' time will still be a really good piece of business, because he'll have his whole future ahead of him. But yeah, in regards to those rumours, 80 million pounds, I honestly can't see it happening. But in terms of the player, he's an incredible talent. Like, there's no doubt about it. For those of you who saw the game against Andorra last Sunday, I honestly thought he was our best player on the pitch. Some of the touches he had, the flicks, the pieces of skill, it was nothing short of brilliant or sensational. And you can see how he'll develop in the years to come. And being at Borussia Dortmund, one of the greatest clubs in the world, one of the best in Germany, and how they produce players year after year after year. He's honestly at the best place he can possibly be, and he'll only get better and better. So whilst I do think it's a lot of money, 80 million pounds, I'm genuinely not surprised that they're demanding that much, given that he's got 3 or 4 years left on his current contract, his age, his potential, and the fact that Dortmund always get really, really good money for all their players. They got 70 million for Sancho this summer. They're going to get however much money next year for Haaland. So he's going to be an absolutely wonderful player in the next few years, and I look forward to seeing him develop. I just want to go back onto the Trent topic though for a moment, and whether he could actually potentially become a midfielder in the future, or whether he'll stay at right back for his whole career. If I'm being totally honest, I don't think he can. I don't think he should go into midfield. I think he can go into midfield. I definitely think he's got the quality to become a great central midfielder when he develops and when he becomes a bit more mature. But being a right back, and because the quality he has in that right foot in terms of delivering crosses and assists, is so much better for him when he has that width. And yes, I know so many people say that he can't defend, but I think that's a really lazy narrative. Like, there's so many examples I can point out where Trent's done brilliantly 1v1. I think I remember in the Champions League final, the one we lost to Real Madrid in 2018, he pocketed Ronaldo. I think that was one of Ronaldo's worst games for Real Madrid. He's had several good matches against Manchester City. And he was part of a defense that kept 15 clean sheets when we won the league title. He kept however many clean sheets the year before when we won the Champions League. So I don't think he will move into midfield, especially with Jurgen Klopp being at the club for a few more years, and it doesn't look like he wants to move him into right back, into centre mid. Sorry. So for him being in that position for the next three or 4 years, however long Klopp is at Liverpool, I can't see him going into midfield in those years. And by the time 2024 comes around, by then Klopp's contract will expire, and I do think he'll leave by then. I think it'll be too late for Trent to go into midfield and learn a new role, especially when he'll be 24 or 25 at that age. So that's my opinion on the Trent on Trent's best position. Talked about the Jude Bellingham rumours. Now let's talk about the news between Brazil, Liverpool, and of course the Premier League. I think that's been the most interesting thing that's come out over the international break. So originally, the basis of the story was 8 Premier League players from 5 clubs were not allowed to travel to Brazil due to the quarantine rules, where if they went to Brazil, they would have to isolate for 10 days because of Brazil's COVID situation. They're on the red list, meaning that people who come from that country or go to that country will have to isolate for 10 days. So it meant that Alisson, Ederson, Thiago Silva, Fred, Fabinho, Gabriel Jesus, and I can't remember the other two, but 8 of those players were not allowed to travel to Brazil. Otherwise, they would have had to miss 10 days for their clubs, and I think that would have meant they would have missed two or three games, which would have been firstly a massive blow for the clubs and a blow for themselves. Having to not play for 3 games, 10 days in total, they would have lost a lot of rhythm. So, because of that, Brazil have retaliated, and in my opinion, they have been very, very petty indeed. I think over the course of that international break, they still picked up several good results. I think they beat Peru. I think the other day they won 2-0, and they picked up a few more points before that. So it's not like they missed those players. And now them going to FIFA saying, "All right, we're not happy that these players could not join our squad. We want you to ban those players for 5 days." It's just ridiculous, especially when they have no choice. Like, it's so unfair on the players who had literally no influence on the decision whatsoever. It was made out of their hands. And I think Fabinho came out last night saying that it was a really difficult situation. They want to represent their countries, and playing Brazil, South America is obviously one of the most passionate places for football. It's live football, and that's it. So for them, football is everything in that country. So for the players, Fabinho, Alisson, Firmino, Ederson, etc., to not go and play for their country would obviously have hurted them. So it would be unfair on them to miss games that they had no choice over. So Fabinho came out saying, "Yeah, it's a difficult situation. We don't know. There's nothing we can really say or do much about it. We just hope that an outcome can be reached." And I think because of what's happened over the last few days, I do think that we could see a potential agreement with governments about players going to red list countries and not having to quarantine when they come back. So I do expect the Brazilian players and a couple of other players who would be traveling to red list countries be able to go and not quarantine on the way back in the next international break. But again, yeah, Brazil, they've gone to FIFA. They said ban these players for 5 days, so it would have meant that Ederson and Gabriel Jesus missed the game against Leicester tomorrow, and that game, Manchester United's Fred, he allows the other player who couldn't go, and to be honest, that's probably an advantage for Man United if he's unavailable. But yeah, he as it stands won't be able to play against Newcastle tomorrow, and I think their Champions League game next Tuesday. Thiago Silva the same, but the next twist is that apparently the Premier League clubs are going to ignore that rule, and they are going to play the Brazilian players. So Ederson could and probably should and perhaps will be in the starting 11 for Man City tomorrow, as will Gabriel Jesus. The same for Alisson and Fabinho. So I saw a report that Liverpool are going to ignore the rule. They believe that FIFA and Brazil have no basis to ban the players or inflict on any punishment that could have occurred if they'd have played those players. So it's been it's been a bit of a drama show with Brazil, the Premier League, and all these clubs and players. And again, we've seen today Premier League managers criticize the FIFA ruling. So I'm just looking here, some of the other players from other nations who would have been banned for the next few days because they couldn't travel to their countries, and would have had to quarantine on the way back. So we've seen I've seen Steve Bruce come out and come out against the decision to ban those players. And we have also seen as well that some of the other countries who are red listed, so Paraguay, for example, Miguel Almiron would have travelled to his country and play those South American games. So originally the ban was in place, but then Paraguay removed that decision, and they and FIFA and the country basically withdrew those claims, and thankfully some common sense has prevailed. And another player as well, Raul Jimenez. He's he again with Mexico, same kind of outcome. He's now available to play. So I do think the Brazilian players will feature this weekend, and I do expect Alisson and Fabinho to both start against Leeds on Sunday. Now let's move on to that. So a really, really great and exciting match against Leeds United on Sunday at Ellen Road. So that will be a very exciting match and a very difficult match, I have to say. So Leeds, we all know what they're about. They play really high energy, aggressive, quality football, and aside from a couple of the big teams in the league, I honestly think they're one of the toughest teams in the amongst the 20 clubs in the division. The way they tactically set up, they're so clever and they're so smart. It's going to be a really, really tough challenge. And again, Rafinha, he's the other one. Like if that ban is removed, it looks like he'll start. He's a real threat and someone who I think was linked with Liverpool in the past. Patrick Bamford, of course, the quality he possesses, and he'll be really on a real high after being called up for England over the break and getting his first cap. And not only that, they've got so much quality in that team. Elsewhere with Calvin Phillips, of course, and their new right back Junior Firpo, and surprisingly their new winger Daniel James, coming in from Manchester United for £25 million a few days before the deadline. So I think that's a really good signing for them. I know Dan James hasn't had the best of times in Manchester, but under Bielsa, playing regular football, I think he'll really flourish, and we could see the best of Dan James. He cost Man United £18 million a couple of years ago, so he's obviously got some potential there. And the fact that he made a profit on him a few weeks ago clearly shows that he does have some talent. So I do think it will be a really tough match. I wouldn't say I expect us to win because of Leeds and that atmosphere, that crowd. They love welcoming the big teams, and we saw how brilliant that their atmosphere was against Everton. And with all due respect to Everton, they're not a Manchester United or a Chelsea or Liverpool or Manchester City. So Leeds fans will be definitely up for that game. And we saw last season, even without fans, how difficult it was playing against them. That opening game, the opening game of the season last year, we just about won that game through most out of penalty, and then in the reverse game, we just about drew 1-1. I know we conceded very late on, but we were very lucky to get anything from that game. Really, Leeds absolutely dominated us in the second half, and they could have and probably should have won that match. So a really tough game, really exciting game on Sunday against Leeds, and I really hope that we do come away with the 3 points to make sure that we keep up that pressure on the title race, even though it's only 4 games in. And then from that, we've got our next game in the Champions League. So a really, really great time. I absolutely love September. It's one of my favorite times of the year. We've got several Premier League games. We've got the Champions League returning. We've got Carabao Cup, and of course, new FIFA, which is always exciting, even though it gives me a lot of rage. So AC Milan after the Leeds game on Wednesday night. Again, I'm very, very excited for that fixture. A real classic European tie. 13 Champions Leagues between the two teams. So lots of history, and a lot of brilliant moments between the two clubs. Of course, we had the Istanbul final and they had the Athens final. So we both got one over each other. And again, AC Milan looking very good. They made some great signings over the summer. Bringing Olivier Giroud, a real astute piece of business. For someone, he's got so much experience and still a lot of quality. So bringing him in was a great move. They started the season very well. I'm just looking here. They've won their opening matches, so a very promising start. And even though they've lost Donnarumma to PSG, they still made some really good deals. And it won't be an easy match. Just because they've not been in Champions League for several years now doesn't mean there'll be a walkover. So again, I'm expecting a very difficult game. So yeah, two very difficult fixtures in the next week, but two very exciting fixtures also, and two games that I'll look forward to watching. So that's all the Liverpool news that I have for you today. We've covered the Trent debate over right back or centre mid. So for me, 100% right back. I think that's his position. I think that should be his position for his entire career. The Jude Bellingham rumours. Again, I hope it happens. I doubt it will happen. So I want to wait and see. And then, of course, the Brazil Premier League and clubs issue. So again, I don't see the Brazilian players not playing this weekend. So I do expect them to see them starting for their clubs, and no potential sanctions in the coming weeks. And then the Leeds game and the Champions League game, and a bit more on that. So as we gear up towards the first round of matches, anyone could win it. Any team you never know what could happen in the next 9 or 10 months. We've seen so many great surprises and shocks over the last few years, and that's why I want to give my prediction for the tournament. So for me, I think Man City will win the Champions League. I know I should be backing my own team, but I honestly think that because Man City lost the Champions League last year, and because I think they've really got that hunger to win it this time around. And we see so often when a team loses the final a year before, they go on to win it the next year. It happened with us in 2018, lost it there, won it the year after. It happened with, what's another example I can give? I think Manchester happened to Manchester, AC Milan, of course. They lost it in 2005 after their comeback, and they won it in 2007. So Man City, that was their first ever Champions League final, and Pep Guardiola's first for 10 years, I think. So having that experience, that pain of defeat, I think they'll go on to win it this time around, because they do not want to repeat of that feeling again, and because they've gone past that they've gone through those hurdles. Getting past the quarterfinal was a big thing for them. They've often been knocked out in that stage for so many years. They went past that and they got to the final. And I genuinely think they're not too bothered about the Premier League. They've won it 3 times out of the last 4 years, and the Champions League is still something that eludes them year after year. So for me, they're the team to win it. And top scorer predictions. Well, there's always the always the usual lot. Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, Ronaldo, of course. Being back at United, that's an unbelievable signing for them. Lewandowski too. For me, I think the top scorer will be Mbappe, purely because, firstly, he had a terrible Euros, and again, I know that's not a great basis to go on, but we've seen before in the past players not have great periods or great tournaments or anything like that, and they've come back stronger. They've come back on the other side of things, and even though he's only got a year left in his contract, and he is going to leave next year to Real Madrid, or maybe Liverpool, he'll be doubly determined to make sure that he's in the best possible form going into his new club next season. And again, for PSG, they've got a lot of pressure to win the Champions League as well, even more so than Manchester City after the business they've done over the transfer window. But I think Mbappe will be top scorer because he has that supply from Messi, from Neymar, from Di Maria, Verratti, and Wijnaldum in midfield. So he's got so many teammates to help him score as many goals. I can't see anyone else other than him securing the Champions League Golden Boot. So anyway, those are my predictions for the Champions League and all the topics that we've discussed about with Liverpool over the last week. So I hope you've enjoyed this All Things Liverpool episode. We'll be back next week for a review of the AC Milan game, predictions and previews of the next game after that, and all the other Liverpool news that will happen over the next 7 days. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.